Now, yesterday we have started with the LWC session, and today is day 2. Yesterday LWC session, we have seen what are the topics that we are going to cover in LWC course. Before starting to the LWC or Lightning Web Component, like what do you know about, like what is LWC? What do you think about LWC? What is LWC? What is LWC? Anyone? UI, okay.
As per our requirement, we creating own pages
Creating own pages.
with the different views. What as per requirement.
Okay. How about others? What is LWC? Now we are keep on talking in the entire session LWC, LWC, LWC. But what is LWC? What do you understand? Others? Dinesh, Sapna.
Creating web components are like buttons or action.
Buttons are actions, okay. Web components, fine. Front-end UI, okay. Any other? Customized page for Salesforce, okay.
It allows developers to create custom elements like using HTML,
Fine. Custom.
CSS and JavaScript.
Okay. So we have total 36 participants in this session. Now everybody wants to learn LWC. We know that LWC is a one technology that we are going to use it in Salesforce to build the UI, user interface, with the help of different combination of other technologies, like a combination of HTML, JavaScript, CSS. We are going to build some component, right? So that's what we know, right? It's almost same. So see here. So whatever it says, it's a web component. That means in the browser, if you want to implement, let's take an example of any, like say ICICI Bank or HDFC or anything. Like when you open the web page, you will see that something has been implemented already in the page. Now let me open that. So let me open some web page. Let's take a page of Swapna Salesforce. Right. So we have something here. The page has been implemented. Let's take a contact us. So this page has been implemented. Now let's assume that if I want to build this web-based software application for any business, if I want to build web-based software application for any business, for a business, or could be a institute, or could be a automobile industry, like what is required to build web-based software application for a business? What is required to build the web-based software application for a business? Let's take this example, the software that we have in front of, like I'm showing here, swapnasalesforce.com. Now, if I want to build this software application, this is a web-based software application. Now, what else I needed, or what else we needed in order to build the web-based software application for a business? What are the things are required?
Hardware, software, and business logic.
Hardware, software, business logic. Okay. Others,
Database,
database.
backend logic,
Yeah, backend data.
Okay. HTML, CSS, backend. Okay. Now, so in order to build a web-based software application, whether it could be any language, you need three things. Front end, backend, and then we have a business logic. Very important. If you want to build web-based software, you need to know the front end, how to implement a front end logic. You need to know that where am I going to store the data? Now, customer will come, user will come, enter the data here and click on this submit. Where are we storing the data? The backend is required. And business logic, customizing the logic. Where are we doing the customization? You take any technology, if you want to build a web-based software application in the business, you need it front end, business logic, backend. Now let's take a generic scenario for front end. What are the front ends will be there? What are the front end technologies? What are the front end technologies that you are aware of?
HTML, React,
HTML, CSS,
Visual Force pages,
JavaScript.
Visual Force pages, JavaScript. Any other front end technologies?
Aura, XML,
Aura, XML,
React.js, ma'am.
sorry,
React.js.
React.js, yes. and SLDS. Yeah. So we have so many technologies that design system. Okay. So we have so many technologies are available in the market for the front end technology. If I talk about specific to the Salesforce front end technology. If I talk specific to the Salesforce technology, we have HTML, Visual Force, CSS, Aura, LWC. And then Lightning flows. These are the front-end technologies. By using this, any of this either could be HTML, Visual Force, or CSS, Aura, or LWC, Lightning Web Components, Lightning flows. By using this, we can implement a front end in Salesforce. Now, coming to the business logic, what are the business logic that you know that we can implement a business logic in this particular technology? What are the business logic technologies?
Apex,
Apex,
Java,
Java,
.NET,
.NET,
Sockle,
Sockle,
Saucer,
Social. We have a Python, C, SAP. So we have a different technologies in the market to build the business logic. But coming to the Salesforce business logic technologies are Apex, Sockle, Saucer. By using the Apex, Sockle, Saucer, we will be implementing the business logic in Salesforce. Now coming to the backend. So backend will be, what are the technologies will be used in the backend? In generic, what are the
Oracle,
Oracle,
SQL,
SQL, RDBMS, right, and database.com. Yeah, so we have so many technologies at the backend where we can store the data. Now coming to the Salesforce specific, Salesforce backend technology. Is database.com. So these three things are required in order to build a web-based software application for a business. Now let's see here. Let me open the Paint. So we have a front end, business logic, and the back end. So this is the front end technology. And this is business logic. backend. Now, in the front end, what we will be doing is we will be implementing a pages. Right? So let's say here I'm implementing a registration page. I'm implementing a registration page. And in this registration page, so we have to implement a first name input text and last name. This is the last name. And then email ID. This is the first name. And the last name, email ID. And few other details we will be asking the users. And finally, user will be clicking on the submit button. So finally, user will click on here, submit button. Now, in order to implement this UI in the browser, the technology that we are going to use it in Salesforce is either you can go for a Visual Force page or a Flows or Aura or LWC. Currently in the market, mostly used in projects, in real time, in companies, the mostly used is a LWC and Flows in order to implement this UI part of it. Now coming to the business logic is nothing but what should happen. If I receive a, let's say email is received, whether user has entered the correct email, which is having a @ should be a company email ID. It should not be a gmail.com. It should be a company email ID. And we should have some address validation needs to be done. So whether they have entered proper address validation or not. And zip code is correct or not. So these kind of validations we have to do. That means I'll be implementing here the logic within the Salesforce by using the technology. We have Apex, Sockle, and Saucer. And backend we have a database.com. So what will happen here is in the database.com, how can we store the data? So what are the different ways that we can store the data? Like how can we store the data in the backend? So it will be a database.com. So this is a database.com. So this is database.com. So in Salesforce, we have database.com, where the data is going to store it into the rows and columns. Data will be stored into the rows and columns, which is RDBMS format. Which is RDBMS format. No. So here in the database.com, we will have a different tables for each object and the data will be stored here, right? So what will happen? Now here the user has opened the page. Let's say the page that we are seeing here is a Salesforce, Salesforce.com. So user will enter first name, last name, email ID, subject, message, and submit button. So this part is a UI. Now, once we implement, now user came here and enter the all details and clicked on the submit button. Now, whatever the user is entering it, the data will be first captured. So first this data, whatever the UI is there, either this UI will be displayed with the help of Flows or LWC or VF or Aura. So as soon as the user enter, these are going to capture the information. So once we click on the submit button, the front end technology is going to call the business logic. And when it is calling the business logic, whatever the data user has entered, This data, these technologies, LWC or Aura or flows is going to capture the data. So it is going to pass the data of first name, last name, email, and address validation. All the details it is going to send it to business logic. Now, in the business logic, we have a logic where it is going to cross-verify whether the data has been entered perfectly or not. If the data is entered correctly, then it will send the information to the backend technology, which is database.com. It will send the data to the database.com. In the database.com, so we should be having a table called user table, or could be a leads. Let's take a leads. So we have a leads table is available. So in this leads table, we are going to capture the each user data here, and it will be stored into the database.com. Now, in case if there is any error, in case if there is like after sending the data to business logic, in case if there is any error, immediately it will send back and prompt the user saying that you have not entered the valid address. It will not go to the backend. So once this flow is perfect, once it is validated perfectly fine, then only the data will go to the backend logic. So this is the flow. These three are important to build a web-based application, web-based software application for a business. Now, perfect. So we know that now what is the LWC, what is required in order to build an software application or an application for could be any business. But why LWC? Why LWC? Why Salesforce has chosen the LWC? Now, before LWC, Salesforce was using the Aura and a Visual Force. Before that, the first, when the Salesforce has started, initially they have started with Visual Force. Before that, there was another thing is there, another UI is there. Later, they have came up with the Visual Force. Now, in the Visual Force, when they were using it, Visual Force is supporting only the classic. For Lightning, once they switch to the Lightning, once the Salesforce has introduced the Lightning UI, then all the developers were seeing the problem, clients were seeing the problem, saying that Visual Force is not working in the Lightning. It only works in the classic. Then they have taken the third-party tool, which is called as the Aura. Aura is not a Salesforce. Salesforce did not introduce the Aura. Aura is introduced by the third party. But later, Salesforce has thought that instead of going with Aura, there were few complications were there with the Aura. A lot of upgrades were happening, and it's a third party, right? So few complications they have seen. After that, so based on that complication, Salesforce has decided that to go with the LWC. Now, so when they thought of the LWC, so what is the thing that we need to include in the LWC? So few consideration they have taken while implementing the LWC. The first thing is that when they have introduced the LWC should take care of the performance of the web components. And whatever the web components that we are building it should be driven by the web standards. Web standards does not change it, like a HTML. HTML never does the upgrades, right? So HTML, whatever you see the HTML tags, those were introduced in the 19th century or way back it is introduced. And we don't see much upgrades we hardly see any upgrade in the HTML. Right? Once we implement a HTML, we don't change anything in the HTML. So whatever the web standards are there, the browser standards are there. So based on that standards, we should implement the components in Salesforce. So that we need not to every time, we need not to change our code. So the second thought they have gone for is when we are implementing the LWC, it should follow the web standards. That means web standard driven. And it should be an open source. No restrictions that it should open only in the Salesforce. Now, if I'm implementing a web component, I should not restrict that, okay, this component, this UI should open only in the Salesforce. No, it's an open source, like we have a HTML is a open source, right? JavaScript is a open source. Like that, we have to make our LWC component, whatever the components that we are implementing it, it should be a open source. And it should control the data binding. So whatever the data we are going to take it, it should handle the data binding. And going further, if the developer wants to enhance this tool, so they can enhance the tool. And if you want to apply the third-party JavaScript, if you want to apply any libraries of the JavaScript, it should be flexible. So these are the few key points that they have considered when they have taken the LWC. Because the time that we were using the Aura, initially the Aura was a bit complex and it was taking a lot of time to load the components and performance was too high. So these were the few couple of feedbacks that Salesforce has received. Based on that, they have taken a decision. If we are introducing the new technology in Salesforce, these are the few key points that we should consider. Now, compared to Aura, I would suggest LWC is more easy if you learn it. Because it just has a HTML and JavaScript. Aura is a bit complicated. Right, so LWC is more easier and you can use the modern web standards. What are the modern web standards of JavaScripts are there? Those you can use it. So those are the few key points why the LWC is effective and every companies are using right now. Almost all the companies are using LWC. Nobody is asking Aura. Now, some companies is asking Aura because they have implemented the project way back. And if I want to still maintain that project, then we need to know the Aura. But apart from that, almost every interview, they will ask, do you have experience in LWC? And what did you implement at LWC? And why? Few members will ask why LWC is so effective. Then you can say here few key points of performance wise, and it follows the web standard, and it is an open source tool, and data binding can be effective and enhanced tool. So we will see the data binding more in depth. What is data binding? Where we are dealing with the data. So whatever the user has provided the data, where we can deal with the data directly in LWC. So that we will see going further what is web standards, what is open source, what is data binding, what is enhanced tools, how can we use the data binding in LWC. So these are the very in-depth sessions, which we will go step by step. So basically, by using the data binding, where we can deal with the data directly in LWC instead of writing the code, lot of code. So we can do cleanup and maintaining the code itself in the LWC. So that we will see with the examples, and also we will be implementing the programs going further. So definitely we have a lot of programs that we will be doing it for each one of them in LWC. Because this time we are going to have a more programming sessions, hands-on sessions, and homework also. I'll be giving a lot of homeworks on the LWC so that you will also get some idea how to implement a LWC components and what are the, which tag do I need to use it, where do I need to write, what is the code that I need to write it in HTML, everything you will get a knowledge. Right, so this is just at high level, we are discussing it. We have not gone into the in-depth. Now, so before we start with the LWC, we need to understand the HTML. The first thing is that HTML we need to understand. We need to learn HTML, CSS, JavaScript, XML, all these things. But before that, we need to start with HTML. What is HTML? What do you, few members already aware, right? So what is HTML? Whoever is attended my development session, they should be knowing it. What is HTML?
It's a
Hypertext.
hypertext markup language.
If you did not fill the form, guys, please fill the form. So the form is provided in the chat. So make sure you fill the form. So HTML is hypertext markup language. Okay, we can design the web page using the HTML. It is used to create a web pages. Yes. Anyone who don't know the HTML here in the class? So we have a total 41 members, 41 participants in the, okay. So we have a few members who does not know, that's okay. So what is HTML? Basically, HTML, as it says, it's a language. It is a language that describes your web pages. Now you have a page. Let's say you have a page. So you have a page here, right? This is a web page. By using the HTML language, by using this language, we can describe what is the data that needs to be displayed on the web page. That means hypertext language is for describing the web pages, where the text needs to be displayed, how the header should be displayed. Is it a bold color or it should be a font will be the high, font will be the different color, or the where should I need to display the images, everything. This is going to drive it. So HTML is the language for describing the web pages. HTML is a language for describing the web pages. Now, most of the members are thinks that, okay, HTML is a programming language. Is it a programming language or not? Is the HTML is a programming language or not? What is this language? It says language, but is it a HTML is a programming language?
No.
It's not a programming language.
It
You
decides
don't
where
write, you don't write this, right? So this is HTML is not a programming language. It is not programming language. Then what is this? Which language is it? It is called,
Which English
right,
tags.
right. So it is called markup language. So that means markup language is nothing but it uses the markup tags. Use the markup tags. Now, what is this markup tag? What is this tag? Tag means what? Now, let me take you to the HTML page. So just go to the Google and search here HTML tutorial. You will see here w3.com. So here you will have a different HTML you will have, but the one which we are looking is a HTML tag list. So HTML is not a programming language, it is a markup language. The reason is it is used as the markup tags. So these are called as a tag, right? Which is whatever the word is there between the less than and greater than. Less than and greater than is available. So you will see these are the tags which are called as a HTML tag. Anything is available between the less than and greater than. Now we will see going further how to write a HTML tags, but any tag is nothing but there is a word is available between the less than and greater than, which is called as a HTML tag. So by using this tag, we will be implementing it to describe the web pages. That means how your page should be look like. How your page should be look like. Where is the header? Where should display the text? Where should display the images? Everything can be described using the HTML markup language. Using the markup language. So by using this, if you learn, we are going to talk about the each tag. So how the tag should be implementing, how should we write this HTML, everything we will see from the very basics. So how to write a tag, how can I understand which tag needs to be used it. So we will see all of this. So if you learn this HTML in LWC, you will be able to implement a UI part. Capturing the data is a different, but you can implement a UI, at least showing the text boxes and displaying the header. So those things you can implement. So once you attend my sessions of HTML, you will be able to easily implement a LWC UI part of it. Just building the UI part of it, you can easily implement it. And along with this HTML, I'll be also covering the CSS part of it. CSS is styling. Let's say here you have some text which is starting from here. Usually the text will start from this border. Now, in case if you want a gap, it should start from here, or it should be in the center. In that case, you will apply a CSS. So combination of HTML, CSS, you can easily implement a LWC UI part of it, user interface. UI is nothing but user interface. UI is nothing but user interface, where user is interacting with the browser. Where user is interacting with the browser is called as UI or user interface. So that user interface you can easily implement if you practice or if you attend my sessions of HTML and CSS, because we will be covering it, most of the HTML and CSS, the one which we are going to use it in LWC. So you will be perfect by the time we complete this HTML and CSS. And next we will talk about the JavaScript. Now we have a different JavaScripts are there. Now I'm going to teach different, like what are the different JavaScripts are there. And coming to the LWC, LWC is using the modern JavaScript, right? So when they are using the modern JavaScript, what is the differences will be available? So JavaScript has a different features. There are so many things are available in the JavaScript. Now, what is the benefit if I learn this JavaScript? If I don't learn this JavaScript, if I skip this JavaScript, what will happen? Now, the reason we are covering here JavaScript is when you are implementing the LWC component, you know how to write a UI user interface, how to implement a user interface, which is a front end. You know. But in LWC, if you want to write some kind of a validation on the client side, on the browser itself, if I want to implement some kind of a validation, or if I want to implement a logic in LWC, where I'll be implementing in the JavaScript. In LWC, we have a JavaScript. With the help of JavaScript, we will be implementing the browser level validations and some browser level logic, we will be implementing it. So that means if you have web browser, if you are implementing a web browser, let's say this is the browser. So you have a browser that you are implementing, or let's say website. If you want to implement a website, you need to know the HTML, you need to know the CSS, you need to know the JavaScript. Combination of all these three things is nothing but a LWC. That means in Salesforce, if you want to implement a website with the help of LWC, then you should know HTML, JavaScript, CSS, you should know that. Now, is JavaScript is a programming language or a markup language?
It's a programming language.
JavaScript is a programming language. It is a programming language. Now, what is the purpose of using JavaScript? Why do we use it?
To define logic.
Specify the logic.
Business logic.
So whatever the user is interacting with the browser, right? If I want to capture that data, we can capture it using with the help of JavaScript. So basically JavaScript is used to make websites and applications dynamic or interactive. That means you have a Salesforce here. You are implementing the LWC component. Now in the LWC component, whatever the user has entered here, capture that information, provide it to your application. So that means these two are interacting each other at the backend. Right. So, but whatever the JavaScript you are writing it, you will not be seeing that code in the UI. It sits in the backend. JavaScript sits in the backend. You cannot see what is the logic is happening. You cannot see that. Whereas HTML you can see. And whatever in the HTML, you are entering the data using by using the HTML, CSS, we are building the user interface, right? But whatever the user has interacted with the browser, if you want to capture that data and make it interactive with your application, then in that case, we need a JavaScript. By using the JavaScript, we can interact what are the user entering the data that can be interacted with the application.
So it is not a front-end technology.
We can also implement a front-end technology that is a different part together. So we will see that. But coming to the LWC, I'm asking. So in the LWC, you will have three things. All the user interface you will be taking care of with HTML, CSS. Backend will be, when I say backend, is nothing but we have a client-side validations are there. That means on the browser level, if you want to have a validations, you can implement those validations in the JavaScript. Now in the JavaScript, we can also, you can implement few user interface related. Now the thing is that here, let's say here user has entered the first name. If the user has entered more than 20 characters, right? I'm going to show immediately a validation error here. Is it a UI related or is it a backend code related, that validation? Let's assume that here I'm entering the more than 20 characters. Immediately, as soon as I click on this save button, immediately I see the error saying that it is a more than 20 characters. Please enter less than 20 characters. So there are two types of validations are there. One is a client-side validation. Second one is a server-side validation. Client-side is nothing but on the browser level or UI level, which can be handled using the JavaScript. As soon as you enter, hit the tab button, you will see the error message here. Right, so those kind of validations which we can implement it on the UI level in the JavaScript. We'll see the examples going further. So don't worry, this is at the very high level. I'm just giving the information of what is it and how this can be used it, where this can be used it. I'm just giving the very high level. Any questions, guys? Please fill the form if you are attending for the first time today. And if you have not filled the form yesterday, make sure you are filling the form. So if you learn HTML, CSS, JavaScript, that means these are the basic things. These are the basic programming knowledge, basic programming. If you learn this basic programming, LWC is, you are easily implement a LWC. Because LWC is entirely driven by this, CSS scripts, JavaScript, HTML. If you know how to, if you get command on this HTML, if you get a command on CSS, if you get a command on JavaScript scripts, then you will definitely, once you have the good command on this basic programming, then you definitely easily you can have the LWC session implement. So the so first 20, 25, 30 sessions, almost 30 sessions, we will be running at HTML, CSS, scripts, JavaScript. Now after 30 sessions is nothing but around, you will be having a 130 homeworks here, 130, 150 homeworks will be there. So after writing the 150 or 200 homeworks, if you jump onto the LWC, cannot you implement a LWC program very easily? Because half of the things are you have already learned here. How to use a variable, how to declare a variable, how to assign a value to the array, how to retrieve the data from object. If you know this, tweak into this, and how to apply a CSS, what are the tags we have it in the markup language, how to use those markup language tags, and when to use it. If you know this, when you are implementing the LWC, say, components, it is a very easy. And you will not find much difficult when we go to the LWC because you have already done the lot of practice here. So believe me, by the time you reach to LWC, you don't feel the very difficult part. So we will have a different things in the LWC, the functionality, those are like a different part altogether. But when you are implementing a basic LWC components or any LWC without other functionality, Salesforce functionality, it's a very easy to implement LWC. Just whatever you have practiced it here in HTML, CSS, JavaScript, the same concept, you will combine everything and you will apply into the LWC. That's it. Believe me, it is a easy because we had the one of the reason is it follows the modern JavaScript and it follows the web standards and the HTML. HTML never changes. It is an open source. JavaScript also, it never changes. Maybe it will have a upgradation will be there, but the older version still supports, right? So, and this is also open source. So most of your open source, what are the programming you are implementing it, it is a, once you practice like 200 homeworks here in the HTML and again 100 homework in LWC. So total you are doing the 300 programs in LWC. Assume that it is almost equal to the project. In the project also you will not implement a 300 programs in LWC. In project hardly you will implement a 3 or 4 LWC components. Based on that too, based on the requirement. So a lot of practice sessions will be there. So from Monday onwards, we will have this session. So from Monday onwards, LWC session is 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. IST. Monday, 6th May. Development, if you have not attended my development, if you want to attend the development sessions. So development sessions also starting parallelly, 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. IST. And then we'll have a next immediately LWC session, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. IST. And also we are starting the internship. This is every Saturday, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. IST, which is a real-time scenarios. These three are parallelly going on. To get updates on this, just make sure to fill the form so that our team is going to contact you.